Hello. Are you trying to avoid a mental health crisis? Well, today I want to talk to you to see if there's something I can bring to you in the next 5 to 10 minutes that will alleviate, that will help, that will assist you to avoid it. See, avoiding a mental health crisis with using and utilizing the expansion of our consciousness. Now, what does all that mean? Well, first of all, let's talk about what a mental health crisis feels like. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you. And by the way, it is Nicki Vee here from the 1010 movement. I'm sure you can tell that anyway. I've been in this field of coaching and therapy for a long time. And I think the challenge that we sometimes have is that we read a lot, we see a lot on the television, we hear a lot about something that's got like a label. It's something that says you've got mental health issues, or you have this kind of syndrome or this kind of problem. And actually my experience is that it doesn't help us to label it. So let's just talk about that for a second, because I just want to be really respectful and really respectful of other people's views on this, because there are people that actually, often clinical people, that believe that it's actually a thing that happens to us. Now, if you've seen any of my videos before, you'll know that it's not helpful to us to think that it happens to us, because that creates us to feel powerless to overcome any kind of crisis we have in our lives. So let's just first of all think about this. How do we avoid it? Well, the first thing could be to not see it as something that's kind of got us, something that's like we've got, whereas actually if we just take apart mental health crisis, what we probably have is an accumulation. And by the way, please understand, I'm not making it less than it is, because I know that if you're watching this right now, you will feel like you're in a crisis. You will feel like things are overwhelming to you. And I don't want to make that less than it is. But if you remember last week, we talked about not making it worse than it is either. So look, if you are in some kind of mental health crisis, what that can mean is this. First of all, we don't want to label it. Secondly, we want to understand that it might be overwhelm. It might be anxiety. It could be feeling low. It could be having a multitude of things happen in our lives that we're finding it difficult to cope with. So first of all, let's just talk about what it is. So it's an accumulation of things often that causes it to come to a head, which we might call a crisis, right? So when we take that apart and when we think about, well, look, what am I saying to myself? What words am I saying to myself? What am I believing about this? And could I possibly just look at it from a different perspective, which is what we believe is awareness and consciousness. So to expand our consciousness, could we look at this from a different perspective? So first of all, we don't want to label it and go, it's got me, because otherwise we feel powerless. The way to feel really powerful and to expand our consciousness is to say to ourselves, great, how am I dealing with this that may not be helpful? What beliefs have I got about it? Do I think that I'm always going to feel this way? Do I think that this is something that's a crisis that I might need to go and see somebody about and get some medication or something like that? See, those kind of beliefs, and I'm not, again, please don't think that I'm making anything wrong, because if we go to a doctor and they give us medication, I'm not making that wrong. I'm just saying there is a different way of dealing with it. And that is to look at ourselves and go, I'm creating my feeling of powerlessness. I'm creating this belief that I'm in some sort of mental health crisis, when actual fact, I'm just allowing things to get over me. I'm allowing things to overwhelm me. I'm allowing things to make me anxious. I'm believing that this is going to continue. I believe that something's wrong with me. So if we just take those two things, the belief and what we're saying to ourselves, I can honestly tell you that if we realize that was making it worse, we wouldn't do it, would we? If we realize that believing something is going to be continuous was making it worse, we wouldn't do it, would we? So what would be much more healthy for you to believe? what would be much more healthy for you to believe might be that you haven't got a mental health crisis here. What you have is overwhelming thoughts, overwhelming feelings. If you've heard me speak before, you'll heard me talk about how we make chemicals in our bodies that again are not helpful. If we just look at it as having not good beliefs. And so how would it be if just believing that this is just a momentary thing, even if it's happened for us time and time again or over the years, imagine that we have the power to overcome it by taking away the label, by believing that we can overcome it, and by realizing that the thoughts that we have in our minds can be much more helpful thoughts. And you will know yourself. So if I said to you, imagine for a moment that you just were aware. That's what consciousness is. It's just being aware. And if we expand it, it means that we can just see that we are doing this to ourselves. Or, if you find that too strong, we are not being helpful to the process of our healing, feeling better, feeling like we're out of the crisis or over the issue. So let's just recap, because I don't want to make this a whole big deal, because that's sometimes the problem. We make this worse than it is. We make it feel like a crisis that we're never going to get out of, and we're in it. So let's just take a breath together. And let's just drop our shoulders. And then let's just think, how would it be if I could have some impact on this myself? How would it be that just by believing different things, just by thinking different thoughts, just by realizing that I've just got myself into this state, and that there are ways, by just having more awareness of it, just having a more expanded consciousness, and realizing that just by having an awareness of it, it feels different. So just check in with yourself now. If you were to just have a greater belief, if you were just now to have a different thought in your mind, if you were to just breathe and drop your shoulders, how does that feel now? What words would you use to describe? How does that feel better? How does that feel different? And that's all I want to share with you and leave you with today. To look at this from the perspective of, I can have an impact on this. So how would it be if just by taking this time with me today, that everything, even if someone was to say, I thought you said you had a mental health crisis, that you could say very calmly and very clearly, actually, I've realized that I can have an impact on it by seeing it differently and by feeling the difference. So I'm going to leave that with you for today, and I hope you can feel the difference right here, because I certainly can. If this is your first time on the channel, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. There are 2 videos come out each week, one with Tony Vee, one with myself, on all parts of consciousness and associated situations and subjects. And if you have a question or you have anything that you would like to talk to me today, pop a question or comment in the box, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So until next week, yes, let's just take a breath and just feel how much better we feel. Thank you. Bye-bye.